Channel Fear Zone, your horror channel. Before I start the story, I warn you that I read all your comments on my videos, but YouTube is blocking my answers to your comments. Maybe this happens because I am in Brazil, but I still see and read all your comments. And now we go to the video. Good evening everyone, and today's story is from Mr. Matson, and this happened to him in the city of Santa Barbara do Oeste, which is in the state of Sao Paulo, and at that time, which was in the year 1993, Mr. Matson was 32 years old. I live in the south of Bahia, but I always went to the state of Sao Paulo to work in the sugarcane fields. But at a certain time, many years ago, I went to work in a mill as a sugarcane cutter on the plantations. But after a few months, a new worker arrived at the mill. His name was Enrique, and he came to sleep in my room, and this guy was not one to talk much, but even so I had a little friendship with him. I noticed that at lunchtime of the workers, this Enrique did not eat salt, because one day he got angry when I threw salt on his salad, and he did not see, as soon as this guy put the salad in his mouth, but he quickly spit the salad out and went to the bathroom to wash his mouth. Of course, I didn't think this was normal. For me, this guy had some problem with salt, which was a mystery to me, because this man had some strange sores in his mouth, because he had a salt allergy. Well, the days went by, and soon I and another friend from my room started to see that Enrique once or twice a week he slept outside the dorm, and he would come back bruised in the morning, but as it was Enrique's life, I had nothing to do with it, and I let it go. One day, a man who worked with me in the sugarcane field invited me to visit a place in town, and I accepted the invitation because he had a car. After spending a few hours at this place, we decided to go back to the mill. We started to walk with the car to the lodging and took several dirt roads on the way, because this place of lodging was close to the sugarcane plantations. Finally, soon after a road, we passed near a man holding a chicken in his hands. I was surprised, because this man was Enrique who slept in my room. I was amazed to see this guy in that place at night, because I already suspected that he did something wrong at dawn, because he only came back when it was dawn. And the mystery for me at that moment is that this man was walking in this isolated and distant place, and so my driver friend stopped the car on the road, and we decided to follow this man to see what he was going to do in that place. As soon as we got out of the car, we were walking slowly and chasing Enrique along the dirt road. Then we saw that he entered a forest and was walking through the vegetation. We began to follow him through the dark woods quietly so that Enrique would not find us. And it was easy to follow him in that darkness because he walked with his flashlight on. But after chasing him for about 5 minutes, Enrique stopped in a place and tied the chicken to a tree. Well, to our surprise, another man arrived by the place, and he also brought a chicken holding in his hands, so the two suspects started talking, but then they turned off the flashlight lights, and soon to our amazement, the two guys started making a lot of noises, as if they were feeling some kind of strong pain, and they were screaming a lot. Me and my friend were scared, and we thought that these guys were messing with some kind of heavy black magic, and that maybe they were even possessed by an evil entity. But then the noises stopped, even so we decided to leave this place. But then we heard a kind of low and scary growl that seemed to be from some kind of large animal. Suddenly we heard the chickens being attacked by something, and for me it was some kind of dangerous animal that did this. I wanted to leave this place without making any noise, but we heard something running through the vegetation and shaking some bushes close to us. At this time my partner got desperate and ran scared into the bush, and I ran too, not to be attacked. But to my surprise, I heard more noises of the animal running through the vegetation, and it was following me. As I was running in the woods, and I saw the barbed wire fence near the dirt road, my friend was waiting in front of his car. As I was running close to the fence, I started screaming in desperation, and my friend saw me, and he picked up some rocks from the ground and started throwing them at the animal that was chasing me. As soon as I jumped over that fence from the road and fell to the ground, I was surprised by what I saw, because I looked at the fence and saw a huge black creature with lit eyes trying to get through the wires of the fence. But my friend kept throwing rocks at this beast so that this weird animal couldn't get through the wires and catch me. This friend of mine called me to get into the car quickly. I got up from the ground and ran to his car and got into the car, but as soon as I looked at the fence again, I saw that animal stunned because of the stones that it had been hit on the head. Right after that, another one of these creatures also appeared that saw the wire fence, but this creature ran through the forest on 4 legs, like a dog, and soon disappeared. My friend said that the 2 werewolves were trying to surround us, and because of this my partner started the car, and we left that place very scared. As we drove along the road, and when we entered another dirt road, we saw another one of these creatures that chased me into the woods, and this beast also had lighted and shining eyes, and this werewolf ran in the middle of the road on 4 legs, and soon he went into the woods scared because of the light from the car headlight. Well, as I saw such a beast standing upright and looking like a person and walking on 2 legs, to me, it was clear that these 2 beasts were werewolves. Finally, after driving along many roads, we arrived at the dormitory of the power plant where we were staying, and we didn't see Enrique, who was in the bush with the chickens, because he hadn't arrived yet, and his cot was empty. I started to get very worried about this boy that was sleeping in my room, and that I had seen in the bush with a chicken, because he could have been caught by the werewolves. I began to suspect Enrique, because after he and his friend turned off the lights of the flashlights, the 2 suspects began to scream in pain, and then 2 animals appeared, and to me those 2 beasts were werewolves. I began to think that the 2 creatures were Enrique and his friend. However, the hours went by, and this guy that turned into a werewolf didn't show up at the lodging. But when dawn came, I went to cut cane in the plantations, and I didn't find Enrique. Soon my working hours were over, and as soon as I arrived at the lodging to take a shower, I saw that Enrique's things were no longer in his closet. So I asked the workers if anyone knew what happened to Enrique. But one of the guys who worked as a cane cutter said that he saw Enrique sneaking into the barracks, and he was very scared and strange, but he was also very injured, with some marks on his body, as if he had been scratched by some animal, and after that he took his things and left. But a few days later, the police came to our lodging and told us that a man had appeared dead and naked in the middle of the forest, and it was a guy who worked at the mill too, but this guy was killed by some kind of large animal, because of the types of claw wounds and bites from some kind of beast. However, for me, it was very clear that the 2 guys that were in the woods that night had turned into werewolves and had a disagreement and ended up fighting, and so one of the beasts ended up dying in this confrontation. But there is also the case of Henry, that he had an allergy to salt, and we all know that salt helps to expel supernatural creatures. After this whole story, I stayed until the end of the months of harvest, and at least I did not see anything else different happen, but what perplexed me is that I saw 2 werewolves on the same night, and these creatures exist and attack people. And this was my experience that I had with these beasts. Good, thank you for watching the video, and if you liked it, leave your like and subscribe to the channel to receive new content every week. Until the next story. Fear Zone Channel, your channel of terror. Hello, good night everyone, and now we go to today's account, which is of Mr. Jorge, and this happened to him in the city of Pelotas, which is in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, and at that time it was in the year 1998. Mr. Jorge was 38 years old. But before you start this spectacular story, sign up for the channel to receive our new videos every week. And now, let's go to today's story. Well, my name is Jorge, I'm still a trucker, and in my profession, although I really enjoy working traveling, I've seen many sinister things by these roads in the early hours, but one night, what happened to me on the road was something almost impossible to believe, because I gave a ride on the road for a strange woman who to me was a vampire, and I spent the greatest danger of my life, and it was very lucky that I came out alive from this story. And already starting my report, one night I was driving my truck and going to pick up a load in a city in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, and arriving in that state, I went through some municipalities. However, I was passing through the lane near a small town, and that I saw a woman on the highway. When I got close to her, I stopped my truck because I saw that this young lady was well dressed, and it seemed that she would go to some party. The fact is that this woman was very beautiful. She was blonde, and her skin was very white and pale. It was like this young woman had never sunbathed. But the strange thing is, the place she was, it was too risky for a girl like that to be there at that time, and it was already late at night. To go to a party at the dance club. I began to distrust this story. At that moment, I began to feel something bad in the air. Soon I thought not to give a ride to this woman, that by her appearance she would be around 24 to 28 years at the most. As I talked to her, her eyes appealed to me more and more. And I, in that state of hypnotized, could not get out of that mental domain. Anyway, she got in my truck. I was walking this woman in my vehicle against my will. And to make matters worse, I obeyed the commands of this strange woman, and I got off the highway driving my truck, and I got into several streets of land. As soon as we got on a dirt and dark road, this strange woman told me to stop the truck on a deserted dirt street, and I did it without contesting. I stopped the truck in a dark place full of woods. I felt amazement at this strange woman near me, but I couldn't get out of this mental crash. And the answer I could speak was just the words yes, yes, and no, no. Then she started kissing me. I was paralyzed without any action, but when she kissed my neck, something happened, because this woman walked away from me very fast, and it seemed like this stranger, she was afraid of something I was carrying. And I realized it was my silver chain that I wore around my neck that tormented the girl and kept her away from me. But as soon as I looked at her, I saw this woman with a whole modified appearance, for now she looked like a monster, and her eyes were all black, and her mouth was so big she could swallow a person's head, and that girl's teeth were like the teeth of a shark. This vampire tried to attack me again and advanced on me, but I, who was lucid, and managed to put my feet in front and defend myself, and I began to kick this creature back, and also at that time of danger, I managed to open fast the cab door of the truck, and threw myself out of the cabin, and I fell to the ground of the dirt road, and I got up fast, and I ran out of that place, like running away in fear that the vampire would chase me down the road, but by my luck, the creature didn't chase me. After running a lot, I managed to get to a neighborhood of a city, which was near the track, and I went into a gas station, and I got a phone, and I called the highway police. I told the cops that someone took my truck, and I didn't even know who it was, but that I had seen my truck parked on a deserted road, but I didn't have the guts to go to the vehicle alone. the cops talking on the phone. They said they'd be here soon to investigate. After almost half an hour, the cops arrived, and there were 4 road guards. Then I went with them up the road where my vehicle was. And arriving at the scene, the cops came out with their guns in their hands and pointed in the direction of the truck and into the woods next door, thinking it would be a group of thieves who did it with the vehicle. And they began to distrust this story, that there was something wrong and that I was lying. I ended up telling the truth to the cops, that I was kidnapped by a vampire woman, and I came along with her, and I stopped my vehicle in this place. The guards entered the woods to see if they could find any other clues, but they found nothing. The cops, they suspected me, and they ended up taking me to the station, and getting there, the cops kept asking me a bunch of questions, what the woman looked like that I found on the road, and her age, and the clothes she was wearing, and stuff too. I stayed this whole morning, answering the questions, and as I had no criminal passage in the police, I ended up being released. But when I was leaving with my truck, one of the cops, who was the oldest, he told me that 10 years ago, he went with some cops, investigate an occurrence that happened on a deserted road, and the cops found a parked car with a dead man inside the vehicle, and the strangest is that the victim's body was practically without blood, because several bites were found by the body of the corpse, which was where the blood was sucked. And from the autopsy they did on the body, the coroner didn't understand the result, because it looked like the driver killed in the car was attacked by an animal, and by a person at the same time. This military told me, if it's true what I said, there must be a vampire woman out there, and it could be that it was this creature that sucked the driver's blood, who was dead in the car. After I talked to the old cop, I got into the cab of my truck, and I started driving my vehicle down the highway to pick up a load in a nearby town. Anyway, while I was traveling and driving my vehicle, I kept thinking about this terrible story of what happened to me, and even though I found this vampire, the worst of this creature is that the vampire manages, hypnotizes people, and controls even their wills. And my luck is that I was wearing a silver chain, and this creature tried to attack me, but the silver chain pushed this vampire away from me. I don't think this creature likes silver. And in my story, I learned one thing: I never stop on the road at night to give a woman a ride. And of all the cases of reports of terror, which I've been through and heard from other truckers, my story is the most impressive of all. And I leave a warning for all drivers: be careful, especially if you see some woman in the early hours near the city of Pelotas, because you can find that vampire woman. Good guys, thanks for watching my video, and if you liked the report, subscribe to the Fear Zone channel, your channel of terror. Good evening everyone, and now we go to today's story, which is from Mr. Mario, and this happened to him in the city of Nova Odessa, which is in the state of Sao Paulo, and was in the year 2003, when Mr. Mario was 21 years old. And today, I will tell you something unforgettable that I lived in my life, because the werewolf that I saw was doing his evil deeds in my town. And it all starts like this: I live in a village in the rural area, which is far from the city center. But a certain time of year, there was a corn harvest in my city, where several people came from all states and cities of Brazil to work in these plantations. But then the harvest season began, and a few months went by. But it was also the time for the June festival, and there was a big event in a place near my neighborhood, where several workers who harvested corn also came to have fun at this festival. The fact is, I went to this party with my cousin and his friend, and we three were having fun all night at this party. But not long after, my cousin got into a fight with a guy at this event, and my friend helped my cousin to beat up a lot this stranger, and I saw that they could kill this man. I stopped the fight, and after that we left, not to get more trouble. The next day, we went back to our normal lives, but I learned that the guy who was beaten by my cousin worked as a corn picker, and his face was all swollen and bruised. However, as soon as about 2 weeks passed, I was amazed by something that happened in my village, because my friend, who helped my cousin beat up the stranger at the party, was allegedly killed by a large animal on a dirt road near our neighborhood, and when he was returning from his work at night, an animal attacked him viciously, taking his life. After that, a month passed and my cousin told me that he saw an animal that was hiding in a vacant lot in front of his house, and he suspected that it could have been this beast that killed our friend on the road. Well, with all this story, the people in my neighborhood were afraid to go out during the day or at night in the village because of this beast. The fact is, the police and the fire department stayed a few days after this animal that killed my friend, but the military and the fire department found nothing. But to my surprise, what I learned in this search for the beast is that the corn picker that we fought about at the party, the police had taken him to the police station because they caught him walking through the woods at dawn, and that he was suspected of taking clothes from the clotheslines of the houses. Well, after a while, the harvest season was over, and the harvesters had already returned to their towns, and my cousin was still scared of the beast that he had seen the other day in the bush, but he told me that he had not seen this animal again, and my cousin also said that this beast was not a normal animal, because he had a glow in his eyes that was scary for anyone, and his appearance was like a monkey and dog mixed together. I got a little pensive in this story, if this creature had something to do with my friend, who died attacked by a strange animal. Well, almost 6 months passed, and the corn harvest started again in my town, and with it the harvest workers, a few of them began to appear around my neighborhood. One night I was in a bar drinking, and soon I saw that the guy who fought with my friend and my cousin last year at the party, and this man was drinking at a table in the bar, and I noticed that sometimes this guy looked at me in a strange way, as if he already knew me from somewhere. Anyway, when it was already dark, the bar closed, and my cousin and I left together to our homes, and started walking through some dirt roads in our neighborhood. However, when we arrived at my house, my cousin took another street and was walking alone through the dirt road to his residence. I soon opened my gate, but suddenly I heard someone running down the street, and it was my cousin. He was running away from something, and then a creature came running after my cousin down the street, and it was a weird big animal, but luckily for him, I opened my gate quickly, and my cousin managed to escape by entering my house, and I quickly closed my gate, and just as I was about to pass the chains to lock my gate, surprisingly, that beast arrived in front of the house running, and soon. This being already stood up and stood on 2 legs, even standing, like a person, and to my surprise, this creature began to pull my gate with his hands to open it, and this beast growled of rage at me, trying to intimidate me, and he swung my gate with great fury, and I also held the gate for the creature not to enter the house. But soon my cousin appeared holding a wooden handle, and gave several strokes in the hands of the creature, in which the beast released his hands from my gate. At that moment this monster began to roll on the ground and growled in pain, and it was scary the noises that this werewolf made, but then, this beast got up, and ran on foot down the street growling with noises of suffering, and it went into the woods and disappeared. At this, I took advantage and closed my gate quickly with the chains and padlock. My cousin and I entered my house, and we watched to see if the creature was around, but we saw nothing. I took a machete to defend myself, in case the creature decided to come back and try to enter my residence, and my cousin was even more afraid, because I didn't have a firearm at home. My cousin told me that it was this beast that had appeared in front of his house last year, and that maybe it was this werewolf that killed our friend on the road as well. In all this conversation, time went by, and I came to the conclusion that this animal was a werewolf. For this creature stood upright, and his body was like a man's from the waist up, but his legs were a little crooked back, like an animal's, and his head was like a dog's, with big pointed ears, and although his face looked like a man's, this werewolf had a mouth like a dog's, and with the dark hair on his body this beast had a macabre and scary appearance. Anyway, we stayed up all night, and the werewolf did not appear, but also this creature took a blow to his hands with the wooden handle when he tried to open the gate, and this werewolf must have been very injured. And I, and my cousin, did not understand what was happening, that this beast was trying to catch us, because it was the second time that my cousin saw this beast. Well, the fact is, the day dawned, I went to work normally, and so when it was time for lunch, I went to the pharmacy to buy medicine for a headache, because I had not slept well, because the werewolf had disturbed my sleep. But to my surprise, when I arrived at the door of the pharmacy, that corn picker who had fought with my cousin, and he was making a huge bandage on his 2 hands, with the help of the pharmacist, and it seemed to be a serious injury. However, this man saw me there on the counter, and this stranger disguised himself quickly, and got a scared look on his face as if he owed me something, and I realized this, because he was quite amazed to see me. But then, it hit me, because I immediately thought that he was the suspect of being the werewolf that attacked us at dawn, because of the bandages on his hands, which is where my cousin hurt the werewolf, and I also thought that he was getting back at our friend, because he got beaten at the party, and tried to get my cousin for helping to beat him. This suspect quickly left the pharmacy and disappeared down the street. Then I warned my cousin about the situation and the danger we were in. We soon started to patrol the town looking for the suspect, but we didn't see this man anywhere else. And the other days, we learned that he was away from his work, and the other workers said that this guy left town before the harvest season was over. But a few years have passed, and the werewolf no longer appeared in my neighborhood, but still, when it happens new harvests of corn in my town, I am worried that the guy who fought with my cousin back, and if he appears someday, I'll be very smart, because the werewolf can appear again too, and want to finish his revenge. Well folks, thanks for watching the video, and if you like it, subscribe to the channel to receive new werewolf stories. See you next time.